I want you to know Lisa is a CEO and also a Vistage chair, strategy coach, brand strategist, and I love her hashtag Better Leaders, Better World. Hello, LinkedIn. Welcome to my LinkedIn Live. Thank you for tuning in today. I am so excited for this session today, and I can't wait for you to meet my special guest. And now let's get to the topic of today. We are going to be talking about leadership strategies during the pandemic. It's still a very challenging time, and I think now more than ever, I think we look to leaders and influential people to kind of offer hope. And you yourself are an influential person out there. Everyone has something to share. Everyone has value, and everyone's a leader. So I want you to kind of put that in your head. And today I want to welcome Lisa Harrington to my LinkedIn Live. Everyone, please give a warm welcome, give a big clap to my guest, Lisa Harrington. Lisa, welcome, welcome, welcome. For everyone, I want you to know Lisa is a CEO and also a Vistage chair, strategy coach, brand strategist, and I love her hashtag Better Leaders, Better World. And actually, Lisa, for those people that don't know, let us know tell us what that hashtag means to you.
That's a good question. Thank you. We thought a lot. My husband helps me with the brainstorming. We thought a lot about what it is that I want people to get out of my work. And I feel like there's such an influence of leaders that if we can make all the leaders better, then we can make the world better. So if we start there hopefully would be an impact a long way, in. So. Yes.
Can everyone see her profile? I'm still working on, there we go. So yes, connect with Lisa, CEO, Vistage chair. I'd love for you to share real quickly what Vistage is as well, if you could, Lisa.
Thank you. Yeah, we're a 60-year-old company. I'm with them by contract. I'm a Vistage chair running CEO meetings where 16 CEOs come together once a month and they help each other solve problems. It's not something that changes every month like some networking things, and it's not meant for networking, although that happens. It's these CEOs getting together and sharing their advice with each other in a highly facilitated manner. And I love it because then every month I also get a 90-minute coaching session with each of my members. And we get to dig into the problems they're having, and I can help with some things, and some things they take to the group. There's a lot more to it, but that's the gist of Vistage. The whole idea is the CEOs sitting around the table together.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And so for anyone out there, please tag your leadership connections. Before we start into this session, tag your friends, tag your connections that you think would be interested in this leadership strategies during this pandemic. And yes, so jot down that name. Remember Lisa Harrington, and you can find her on LinkedIn. So let's jump right into it, Lisa. Sure. I think one of the things that I love about you, and we've been working together for a long time. You're my sales coach and strategy coach, and I help you with your video strategies as well, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the things I admire about you and respect about you is you get to the heart of problems, and you lead with heart. And I think now more than ever, that's what we need. So what are you seeing right now? What are the challenges that leaders are facing right now, and what's keeping them up at night?
Everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, the thing that is the biggest challenge for me, helping my clients and that my clients are bringing to me, is that it feels like the whole world is on fire.
Mm.
And that's kind of because it is.
Yeah.
So because there is an impact at every level, in every industry, for every employee,
Yes.
it feels so overwhelming to some of them to say, how do I decide what's the first thing to fix or change or make right? The decisions about furloughing employees are just killing them. They hate doing that. It's very heartbreaking. There's a reaction to all this that's a very human reaction, very emotional.
Yeah.
And a lot of business owners have a good ability to sort of separate emotion from business when they need to. And I don't advise you always do that. There's another hour we could talk about emotions in business and how to use them right.
Right.
But the idea of so many things at once coming at you is counter to what the human brain can handle. Yeah. Change is not, you see everybody saying, oh, I hate change, or some people love change, but change is not natural for human beings. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that it's everything all at once is why they're losing sleep. It's why they're working 12 hours a day trying to figure it out. And
we've never really had a problem like this to face, or this kind of challenge, right? No. And so much of it is unknown. Mm-hmm. And I think so much of it is outside of our control too, right? We can only control so much.
Yeah, big factor. The lack of control. And also there's a really good article. I can't remember the author, but it's called Anticipatory Grief. You can Google it. And that's the other phase to this, or part to this, that's been difficult for everyone. We know how to handle grief because there's some closure. There's a death or the divorce, or somebody moves away or leaves the company. That's a grief we know how to handle. There's a cycle for it. Anticipatory grief is all about knowing something is going to be lost, but not knowing what.
Oh,
we know we're losing things in this pandemic. Some of us have already lost people, businesses, whatever. But this idea that we're in limbo, not really knowing when it's going to end, what's going to happen, and what we're really going to lose, that's tough to handle for everyone.
It is. It is. So what kind of strategy advice? I mean, you're a strategy coach. What kind of strategy advice do you have for leaders right now during these challenging times?
Well, there's three things I'd like to cover real quick. The first one is the fact that all this is changing requires a process to accept that change. I wrote an article a long time ago. It's called Acing Change, and it's just a little quick ditty about how to handle change, but it really applies today. Accepting the change, then actually making the change, and then exploring what the future is going to look like.
So accept the change,
and realize, recognize that some things will stay gone. Then the actual change, that's the C in ACE, change, do the thing, and then explore what that means at every level once the change is made. And in the article, I talk about the acceptance being the key, because emotionally, that's what we have to do. We have to say, okay, things are going to change. Some things are going to come back to normal, but some never will. And we don't know that. And just acceptance in our heart is half the battle. I mean, you probably know that from your own life. When you finally said, okay, can't fix this, can't change it, going to move on. There's something cathartic about that. Then the change you have to make needs to be pretty fast right now. The pivot has to be quick. And I'm so proud of some of my clients who have done amazing things. One pivoted their whole manufacturing organization to hand sanitizer in 3 weeks, and they've sold 800,000 gallons of hand sanitizer.
Wow.
And they're having a great month because they did that. But it was hard. It was 18-hour days. It was a big thing to do. But once they decided, they just moved. They made the change. They went quickly. And then exploring what it could look like on the other side. What are the priorities? What's going to happen next? What can you accept and what can you not accept? There are some things you're going to say, if it goes on like XYZ, I'm not going to do it anymore, or I'm going to change what I do altogether, or it's time to retire, or it's time to do something else. I don't want anybody to make quick decisions. I've actually got at the bottom of my email signature right now, don't make a long-term decision based on a short-term situation.
Say that one more time. I think that's so important.
It says something like, please don't make a long-term decision based on a short-term situation. Because we know this will pass. We don't know how or when, but it's not permanent. We know at least, I mean, every year for the last 20 years, we've had something. There was SARS and bird flu and 9/11, and something happens all the time. We know it will pass, but I don't want people to make knee-jerk reactionary decisions without thinking. And I've got some resources I'll give you at the end for people to reach out if they need help from me and others that are offering free help. You've got to think through this stuff before you make long-term changes. The quick pivot in what you're doing to make money to get through it is one thing, but then the long-term changes, and that's my next point strategically. There's change in dealing with it. The next strategic thing is looking at the future. Don't stop planning. You know, a lot of people froze in place. I've had 3 conversations this week with other people that do similar work to me, and they said half their clients just sort of hit pause. And the problem with that is we don't know the ending. If we knew this was a 60-day problem, that'd be okay, but we don't know that. And so don't stop planning. Don't stop thinking about 3 months and 6 months and 5 years. Where are you going to be? What's going to be happening? What do you know? Because you can't worry about what you don't know. There's nothing we can do about that. So look at what you know and make the plan. And, you know, we in strategy planning, we like to say that the next 12 to 18 months, you can strategize pretty deeply. You can put in tactics and things. The 5-year plan is bullet points. We don't know enough anymore. Things change way too fast now. And then the second thing under planning is keeping engaged with your clients, doing what you got to do to make sure they don't forget about you. Because here's what I'm worried about and what I'm advising my clients. When this gets to really ended, right now we're 25% in Texas for some things as far as capacity, not everything is open. The people that move the fastest as things are allowed to be opened, they're going to grab back that market share. So even if you had 50% of the market in your area before, if you don't move quickly and stay engaged with your clients as this is going on, somebody else is
top of mind still.
I've had personally, I've had to move on from a vendor because I needed the service and I couldn't get it from them right now. And I said, well, I got to have it now. And I had to move on. It was something personal and easy, but I'm afraid it's going to happen more. So you want your people to remember you. You want to make sure you're still thinking about the future. And if you don't have a real strategy plan, a real plan on paper with all of the items that go with it, now might be a good time, because we know that only about 20% of American businesses even have a plan, and about half of those put it in a drawer and they never look at it again.
Right.
And so if there's nothing to go back to say, okay, what do we pivot from or to, it's harder. It's a lot harder to recover. So I'm going to strongly suggest, whether you use me or not, whether you go find somebody to help you build a really good plan.
Absolutely.
Now looking into the future. The other thing about having something down, something written, we talk about goals all the time.
Yes.
And even if it's just a simple list of goals, a to-do list, it keeps you on track, keeps you focused in this crazy time when we don't know if we're supposed to wear masks or not. I mean, something that basic. We don't know, because the research is from everywhere and we get way too much information nowadays, in my opinion. There's no experts anymore. Anybody on Facebook can call themselves an expert. And so with all that distraction, having something to go back to and say, okay, what was the goal again for this month? And what was it I was supposed to be doing? Where was I? It's like having a map. You got to have a map to know where you're going. So that's the second sort of strategic concept. And if you have questions, just.
No. And I think I think the act of writing something down also cements it in our head. Right. And I think it affirms it in our head. And I want you to continue. But one thing you said I thought was worth digging in a little deeper is this pivot, right? Like if you're stuck and if you're, what would you suggest as ways to kind of like spark pivots or spark adaptability? Because that's one thing that you said, like people have to adapt. Like,
Mhm.
what would you say would be good things to spark that kind of adaptability and new ways of operating?
Well, you know how they say two heads are better than one, right? So,
Yeah.
so talk to people, grab somebody out of your network, go to your folks, your staff, they can help you. Have the brainstorming sessions, read the books, read the articles, and everything that keeps the brain functioning and firing, we call it. But here's another thing. Do something not like the way you've done it before. So if you are a very highly left brain Excel spreadsheet type of person,
Yes.
and you are stuck, excuse me, if you get stuck, I want you to go draw a picture.
Interesting.
Because what we need is for the other side of our brain to engage. If you are I have a client who does everything in pictures. She literally will write down what I'm saying in pictures. It's amazing.
Wow.
I'm trying to get her to use an Excel spreadsheet just to fire the other side of her brain, to get the whole brain working on whatever the problem is. And you don't have to do it forever. Just spend 20 minutes once a day doing something different.
Right.
The other thing that we can do to fire our brain is something nothing to do with your business, but let's just say you always play the piano. That's your creative thing you do.
Yeah.
Go buy a guitar. Now, this is the time to do something different. Make your brain know something else. Make it try something else. If you play tennis, go play one round of golf. Just let your body know something else. That change makes a physical difference in your brain. It fires different neurons. It opens different pathways. Whole complicated thing, and I don't know the science behind it. I have to read the articles.
I love that though.
Yeah, but do something different that
that's
fires
great.
The other thing about the plan that I just want to go back to real quick is
Please.
It's accountability. You have a track to run on. You have a list to check off, and the thing that's nice about that is when we get, I said this to a client today. They're on this track, as a banker helping people get their loans for PPP, and I said, well, what happened to everything else while that was happening? Have you got a plan for getting back to all the other things that you were always planning to do? And we work through some of that because it's not a problem. It's not a bad thing that you have to pause for a moment in order to figure out the next step. Right. You don't want to lose track of where you were. It's almost like putting a bookmark in so you can go back to it when you need to.
Yes.
So that accountability is nice to have when you've got some sort of written plan. And honestly, open a notebook and sketch it out. If that's all you can do, that's fine. It's better than nothing. It's getting it written down. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna dump in a little bit of learning management for you. You said something about writing it down and how that makes it sort of stick better.
Yes, affirms it. Yeah.
It affirms it. So if you really want something to stick, you do three things. You have to see it. You have to write it because that's physical activity, and then say it out loud. So as you're writing, you're seeing it. So your eyes are involved. Your physical world is involved because you're writing, you're moving your hands. And if you read it back to yourself, it really helps it stick. It also helps you clarify. Did I mean it that way? When you say it out loud, it changes where it works in your brain, and it helps you to know that, oh, I need to adjust that one thing because it sounds funny when I actually say it.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
That's your extra tip for the day.
Yeah. And that kind of leads really well into my next question. Like, you gave us some great strategy advice and even some tactical things already. Any other tactical things that people can do in the short term and that they can do right now as a leader?
Well, I don't know if this falls in a strategy or tactical, but I'm going to share it because I think it's really important. The structure of your company should start with the values that define who you are. And in times of stress, sometimes we let those values slip. So I guess that's really strategy. The tactical thing to do to keep connected to your values is to do something that shares those values back out to your team on a more regular basis than you used to, and stick to those values. Make sure that all public representation of you and your business adheres to those values. You've got to live it. You can't say that you're a person of integrity or grace or forgiveness or all those things that businesses use if you then go beat people up on Facebook because they will or won't wear a mask. You have to be careful that your reputation as a company owner demonstrates the values that you profess for your company. So the tactical thing is to measure your words,
Yes.
share the information with your team. And the other thing that kind of goes with all of this is sticking to the normal best practices. All the normal best practices that you have. If you're a restaurant and now you're doing curbside, best practices about waitressing might seem like it doesn't matter, but it does. Looking the customer in the eye. They can tell if you're smiling behind that mask. They can.
Yes.
Saying their name, leaning in a little, even though it's from 6 feet now instead of from right up close by the table. Those best practices can be adapted and all should still apply. That's a very highly tactical thing that someone can do. Think about how they're behaving with their customers now. And there's a whole nother thing on this, the stress of all this for the workers, that we just know that it's something you have to manage as an owner, as a business.
Yes.
But don't give up your best practices. Be sure that you actually adapt to them. And then the keep talking to people, that's kind of tactical.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we do a good job of that. You and I and all the people that are on this, hopefully others will see it and know that that's something they should all do. Keep talking to people, keep asking questions, keep working with people to make sure. If you're not, connected through network groups, that would be surprising. There's surely somebody in your network group that you always go to when you go to a networking event. Call that person now. Don't wait to talk to people till we're back in person. Go ahead and call everybody that you would talk to in your network now, because it will help, again, fire the brain. We talked about strategic planning, and then take advantage of the help. There's a lot of help out there. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple right now, 3 of them right now that you can go to.
Okay.
The first one is if you go to vistage.com, at the top of the page, there's a link for leading in challenging times. A vast amount of the Vistage research, they have a whole research team that looks up everything, whatever's going on in the world at the moment. Well, right now they're focused on the pandemic. All of that's open to the public right now, and it's normally member access only. Mm-hmm. But Vistage felt like this was such a huge worldwide problem that it was the right thing to do, which is
time to share. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the right thing to do. So
yes,
they've opened that up, and you'll find how to make sure you get your PPP loan forgiven. You'll find how to help handle a remote workforce. You'll find how to safely re-engage with the community. There's a ton there. The other one is called successinkind.org.
Success in kind. Okay.
.org. And it's something that Susan Shapiro, who's another
like this
here in
the area, spell it right,
just like that.
Okay.
She put this together so that she could help connect businesses that need help with coaches that are willing to do some pro bono work. So I'm one of the volunteers that's helping and taking phone calls from people who maybe they're a 2-person shop and they can't afford to hire a coach, or right. They can't even get an accounting answer about something. Well, she's got all different kinds of coaches. She's got consultants. She's got bookkeepers who have signed up to help. And there's no reason not to go on Success in Kind and check it out. And if you have any question any day, just put it in there. If she doesn't have anybody to help, then she'll let you know that. But we would love resource. We want people to be aware that this kind of expertise is out in the community, and that we want to bring business back in DFW. This is what we're about for that group.
Sure is.
The other well is SCORE Fort Worth, or I'm sure there's a SCORE Dallas, although I'm not connected to them. But when I did the next Women's Forum last year, it was my second Women's Forum. I got to speak last time. It was wonderful. They're an amazing group. Several people on the call are connected to them.
Sarah Waskow's in the group. Yeah, she's part of that as well. Yes.
Several of and it's a amazing resource that people don't know and this is available all the time. So SCORE is always there.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know about it. So, and it's actually some kind of acronym. I won't get it right, but it's something about retired executives. That's the RE at the end. So Sarah can probably put in the comments what the
Sarah, tell us what SCORE stands for, Sarah. Or and small, and's in there. Actually, Lisa, I just want to read some of the things that we're getting in the comments. David Meisingel was saying, along the last thought, share the 20-minute networking meeting, graduate edition. I think that's a great book he mentioned. Jennifer Beats says, connection is key during these times. So important. David also mentioned another great book, Project to Product, How to Survive and Thrive in the Age of Digital Disruption. Thank you for sharing that, David. And let's see what else. Oh, Paul Ernerfuser. I'm so sorry. Excuse my horrible pronunciation. But Paul was, it was towards when we were talking about strategy. He says goals and vision board are also a great way, right? Yes, definitely vision board.
Whatever works for you, just get it down.
Yes. Michelle Barrett was talking about, yes, she lives for to-do lists. It keeps her focused. Me too, for sure. Yes. And then Faith mentioned, I learned from a previous manager during a time of stress, the only consistent thing in life is change.
Amen to that. Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
For sure.
Totally. The only thing we can count on is change.
Absolutely. So we've talked kind of on the entrepreneurship side. I know you also work with a lot of executives in corporate America, right? And some of them are going through career changes. Some of them have been furloughed or let go, and it's a tough time. So what would your advice be for corporate executives during this time and during this change?
Well, this ties a little bit to the other question I know you have on the list about your own brand, having a brand of your own.
Yeah.
So the first advice, I have several that are even way before this. I had people that were going through transition, didn't know what they wanted to do next, or whether it was voluntarily or involuntarily, they were going to be moving on from the job. And the first thing I always ask everyone to do is answer the $1 million question, which I think I asked you at one point, Fanny, you might not remember, but the $1 million question is, if I was to wave a magic wand, because I really can't do this, but if I was to wave a magic wand and give you $1 million a year to do any job you ever wanted to do,
right?
And I would wave my wand and you would have all the connections and the skill set and the money would come in, but there's a caveat. Of course, you can't couch surf. You have to work. Yeah. The caveat is this. That new job can't be anything you've ever had on your resume ever before.
Wow.
It's the first question I ask. It's the first question I asked in every interview I ever had when we were at the point of deciding about a person. And the reason I ask it that way, and the reason I call it the $1 million question, is because if you can identify that thing, it talks about the other side of you. You know, what you do for your career may be something that's been a nice natural flow over the years. And maybe you just sort of went with it because it was okay and it was fun and you were making money and it was okay. But a lot of us don't stop and think, is this really what I want to be doing anyway? So the best, most natural time to make that kind of a transition is when you have to make a transition, voluntarily or not, when you're just so unhappy you've got to go, or when they're letting you go or furloughing you. So first of all, be able to answer that question.
Got it.
The second thing that I find to be very cathartic, it worked for me very well, is really build out a full CV. Not a resume. I mean, you're going to have a resume, and I get it, but
tell people what the difference between a resume and a CV. Please.
So a resume should never be more than a couple pages. It should be that succinct. It's the executive summary of your CV. But a CV is written in third person. A CV is very detailed information about every job you've had. It's usually long. It's 8-9 pages for some people. I think mine's 8 pages, and that's okay. That's what it's supposed to be. It's a very formal presentation of who you are. And the reason I have people in transition do that, if they're not already, usually they're not, but most people don't keep that up to date the way I do. Mine's always up to date, but is because it's cathartic for them. They need to see what parts of that CV excite them when they're writing it and what parts do they just want to get through and move past because that wasn't the job that they liked, or where do they, and then I look at it and I can see based on the level of detail they put in, and probably I've done a disc profile on them and we've probably had that coaching session, but it's just that idea that if you polish that up, it tells you, based on your emotional reactions during each section, what you should do next. So those are the two sort of activities that I put in front of people and ask them to do when I'm helping them. It just answers, you have to first know what you want.
Yeah.
Never mind what's available. First, let's figure out what you want. And then we'll go find something that's available that's connected.
For sure.
There's always something.
And I have David here that said, does that apply to older corporate executives too?
Yep. Everybody. I made a pretty significant change when I moved out into Vistage chairing. I had a part-time consulting practice doing strategy work forever. I don't know, 10 years, I guess it was. But 2 years ago, I said, I'm not going to be in corporate life and do this on the side. I'm going to go for it. And I went to Vistage, and that's a significant portion of my revenue for my business. That was a big leap because I had spent 30 years in insurance.
Yeah.
And there's nothing about insurance in this. I get to talk about it a little when a business owner has an issue, but it was a pretty big leap for me, and I was in my 50s. So
yeah. And I read last year this really cool concept. It's a Japanese term called Ikigai. And it was for every career decision, or if you're about to pivot, there's like 4 areas to ask. And that's obviously, what do you love to do? But also, what are you really great at? Mm-hmm. And it comes naturally to you. Mm-hmm. And then this is where it's cool is, what will the world pay you for? Mm-hmm. And then what does the world need? Mm-hmm. And I thought those were such great, and at the intersection of your answer for all those 4 questions is your purpose and your reason for being.
Yeah, I love that. It's
And
wonderful.
I thought, I that blew my mind, and I thought that's where it's at. That's the core.
Yeah, that's a very elegant way to put it. I like that.
Yeah. So, a big part of it, I think, is also branding, right? Mm-hmm. Executives need to brand themselves. Mm-hmm. And so what would you say are branding strategies for executives?
Well, that's almost like your reputation, but and nowadays that's different. Just in the last 10 years with social media, the way it is, the consistency of how you present yourself is really important. Mm-hmm. The ability to have executive presence, even if you are not an executive. So there's I think a misunderstanding in junior people, young people that are just starting out that, I'll get cleaned up about that, whatever it is, later when I'm an executive. Act like now the way you want to be seen later. Not just the clothes, but that's you dress for the job you want. That's true. I've had to live that myself a few times, high heels and skirts and all that when I'd rather be in blue jeans, but you'd have to do that. Yeah. But the bigger thing is your reputation. Your brand as a person comes from the content you create, which we're going to talk about too. Yeah. It comes from who you hang with, what you do when you're out there. Do you know about etiquette? I'm not saying we have to go back to 1950s Miss Manners, but it matters. Yeah. You sneeze and you don't have a hanky in your pocket. Ugh, that's gross. You have
professionalism,
it's professionalism. Do you know what fork to use at a business lunch? Have you even thought of it? That brand resonates. People remember that. And one of the things about etiquette that I learned a long time ago, my mom was one of those ladies who taught classes where you the book on your head kind of thing. So I had to know that stuff. But
can you still do that? Can you still balance it?
No, I never could actually. But one of the things she said back then was that etiquette is not something you see. The whole point is that you don't see it. People are so relaxed and comfortable around you because you say and do the right things naturally that their experience and interaction with you is always positive and good, and that it's not about putting on airs at all. That's the opposite of it. It should be it should be unnoticeable. And I know for sure my friend Michelle Davis will understand this comment. The way you dress it has to be a reflection of you. It doesn't have to be a reflection of the industry. It has to be your brand. Yeah. And it should be about the person So we want to say, what a great gal that is. Like, Michelle, how beautiful is that woman? It's not about the outfit. It's about her, the person. It brings out the best in her. She's great at it. And I think there's a sense of uniform in some businesses that's slowly going away. Thank goodness.
Yes.
In the early 80s, I was asked to put a ribbon around my neck to emulate a tie when I got into the insurance business. It was ridiculous. Thank goodness that's going away. That I don't want anybody to think that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm just talking about that whole image of yourself, both online and in person.
Absolutely. And let's just kind of go through the comments here. Russ Smariga Russ mentioned great advice. I will add one that has resonated with me recently. With regard to the topic of giving or receiving feedback, try to approach it from an attitude of I'm not mean and you are not fragile, and vice versa. This is even more important in our new socially distanced world when trying to stay connected with our teams. Great one, Russ. Thank you.
I call that caring candor. That's caring candor.
Yes, yes. Caring candor. I love that. I'm going to put that in.
Okay.
That would be a great hashtag, folks. Hashtag caring candor. Love it. Barbara mentioned, this is perfect timing. I'm at a point in my career where I want to do what has meaning for me. And it's so true. I think the older I get, the more further along I get, I want to do things that matter, because we can always go and do something repetitive and something that's, the same or similar or familiar or comfortable. But it means so much more now. Like, I think what legacy we want to leave.
That's exactly it. The word legacy. Hashtag legacy.
Hashtag legacy. Yes. So just to kind of expand on that further, you and I work together a lot on video, right? Short of seeing somebody face to face, it's videos right now. I think there was some Cisco report that said by 2021 or 2022, 83% of all internet traffic will be video. And we started on a video journey together for your brand. But what prompted you to do that? What motivated you to do that?
You did.
I set that up, right?
No.
I set that up.
This is the power of networking. Okay, this is the power.
But it's one thing to know it, and then another thing to take action. What do you think finally in yourself motivated you to take action?
Well, there's only so much you can do personally. You can't be in front of everyone all the time. And even if you go to every networking event that's available, and we know how many there are around here, you don't really get to give your whole story to everybody every time. So I was exploring, how can I get the word out? And I love to write. So I was thinking about how much writing I'd have to do and all. And then we met. And so the idea of finding a way to express who I am and what I do, because what I do isn't simple. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. It's not, it's something that you have to explain and experience
too.
And yes, and experience to some extent. That's why I do a lot of pro bono coaching. Once people see it, they go, oh, I want to do that. But I think just talking to you, realizing that there was somebody who could help me. I don't want to know how to do videos on LinkedIn. I will never want to know how to do that. You know how to do that, and you love doing that. So it was a perfect synergy for us, for me to say, okay, tell me, set me up with the outline, helping me decide how to say what I needed to say, helping me with how to look right on video, actually filming the video, editing the video, captioning the video. I didn't want to do all that. It would have never happened if I had met someone wonderful like you to do it for me. I just wouldn't have.
Thank you.
It's not in my wheelhouse. It's not my natural thing that I'm comfortable with. So,
but you did say you're natural at writing. And I know you have a book coming out. Please tell the audience a bit about your book. Relaunching. Yes. Tell us about that.
Okay, so this is the third edition. This book came out in 2013 the first time. We changed the cover once. They called that the second edition on Amazon. But anyway, then I added a few chapters. I've added a few more. I've cleaned up the layout. I've got a wonderful new publisher helping me with it. And the idea is to tell leadership stories in a way that's more fun, stories always resonate better than just, writing lists of things to do.
Yes. Well, stories touch our hearts, right?
Right. So I was at a National Speakers Association meeting, and Sam Horn, who's an amazing speaker, was speaking that day, and she said something about write about what you know and write about what you love, and then draw a picture of your cover and put it on your refrigerator, and it'll start coming to you. Well, I did. I've never known not to follow the instructions. I just always have. So I did that, and I love animals. I've rescued 26 or 28 animals over my lifetime. I have 5 right now. So I kept thinking about how to make an analogy between the animals I've loved and the leadership that I love to do, and I'm pretty good at. So how do I connect that? Yeah. So I tell stories about the animal and the lesson that animal taught me, and how verbal and expressive, for example, Angel was. And then we talk about communication in that chapter. So, and it's chapter 1 because that's always first. Communication is absolutely first. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's the 3rd edition. I've added the latest few animals in with their lessons they've taught me. And next year, just so you know, I'm writing a book right now. I'm about 3/4 of the way through. My second book will be out next year, and it's all about strategy and planning. So
perfect. And where can they find this book?
It will be on Amazon in a few days. Not quite there yet. I think you might be able to buy it. She might have already posted it in my website to be able to buy it off my website directly if you want a print version. But it will be on Amazon here in a few days. We're working on that. Amazon is, like everyone else, understaffed and overworked at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed deliveries. Well, it's no more the 2-day deliveries, right?
Well, and the publishing side of Amazon, KDP, is they're
too.
Social distancing in the office. They don't have everybody in there. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And for those of you in the audience, please let me know if you have any questions for Lisa. We are here to help you, help the leaders out there. And after all, everyone's a leader. And let us know if you have questions around entrepreneurship, around branding, strategy. Just let us know.
You're a leader whether you think so or not, and people are watching whether you know it or not.
And Ann Small has a question. What do you think makes a great leader, Lisa?
Love. You have to love what you're doing, love the people you're helping, love the business you're in. I mean, if I have to answer it, that quickly. Otherwise, read my book.
Show it to us one more time, please.
Yeah, love. You got to love it.
Show it to us one more time.
One more time.
Awesome. Thank you. Faith said, I worked in my career field before starting and completing a degree in that field. Now I get a lot of pushback when applying for my experience. So, yeah. What would you say to that?
So to clarify,
yeah,
she's getting pushback because she has too much experience.
Oh, it sounds like she had the experience first, then she went back to get the degree, and now there's some pushback. Faith, can you clarify a bit on your question, and then we'll get that answered here. Mm-hmm. We'd love to read that, or we would love to answer that for you, Faith. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what kind of benefits have you seen from posting content?
Just recognition. When I first came out into the South Lake community, I call myself a mid-cities Vistage chair because I wanted to stay out of Dallas and out of Fort Worth. There's already lots of chairs out there. And I was driving into Dallas to work every day, so I didn't know anybody in this area. So I made an intentional play for networking in this area, but also in LinkedIn, I went in and I made sure to connect with all of the local folks. And then by posting content, now when I come to some event, they know me because do I know you? No, you don't, but you're with me on LinkedIn. I had that experience. Really funny. This one woman just insisted. This was at the Next conference last year. Uh-huh. She insisted that she knew me and that we'd met. And I finally just said, well, maybe I've seen you around, but I knew I hadn't. It was just she'd seen a
I've
lot
probably
of
seen
my
your
Facebook
video.
and my
Yeah.
LinkedIn videos, and she would comment and we would chat back and forth, and she felt like she knew me. I think it's very valuable, very
Yeah.
valuable for recognition.
There's a content creator that Julian Placino that I interact with, and he had a famous line that said, when you create content, people feel like they know you before they even meet you.
Yeah,
And
that's what happened with this. Mm-hmm.
right. And I really think that even from a business perspective, from an entrepreneur perspective, it's almost like you have a warm lead or a warm relationship with somebody even before meeting them. So by the time you meet them face to face, there's already like a connection there, right? They know that they've been following your content or engaging with it, and they know they like the person that you're putting out there. I think what you put out, you attract, honestly.
And I think there's one more sort of bigger element to it. People who post real content, real helpful content, not just marketing stuff on LinkedIn and Facebook, they are seen as givers. And you don't get until you give. That's just basic. That's human nature. So when you really put yourself out there, whether it's sharing your heart on something, or whether you put content out there and kind of give away for free the stuff that you're selling because you're telling people how to do something, it's always going to come back to you. One of the comments on my LinkedIn thing is, do the right thing and the money will follow. And if you're giving first, you're going to, thank you. If you're giving first, you're going to get more because your heart's in the right place.
Absolutely. So we have clarification from Faith. Just generally, I think, like, how does one go about reinventing themselves?
Oh, how many hours do we have?
So I guess, she had a certain career, or let's say you have a certain career and now you need to pivot because you found this new passion. Any kind of maybe high level advice of how to reinvent ourselves?
Yeah, the two things earlier I talked about, the $1 million question, the CV experiment, and then ask other people what they see in you. And talk to other people about their viewpoints about you. You have to be pretty thick-skinned about some things. Do you see me as this, that, or the other? Take three or four ideas of things you might want to be doing next to pivot, and ask other people if they think they could see you in that role, and be open to the feedback. That's hard sometimes.
Caring candor.
What?
Caring candor.
Caring candor. Yeah, you want to ask them to please be caring about their candor.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is really deep exploration. There's a book that I love called Soar with Your Strengths, that talks about natural ability versus skills. It's also the thing Strengths Finder talks about so much. I highly recommend both those books.
Yes.
Strengths Finder and Soar with Your Strengths. If you haven't read them, Faith, was it Faith? Yeah.
Yes, Faith.
Please read those two books because they will help you sort of get introspective. You got to dig in a little to figure out what are the steps you need to take.
So let's say you've reinvented yourself and you've found this new passion, but you may not have all the experience in it yet, right? So in that case, any suggestions on how to get hired in that new field because you don't have the history or the experience with that?
Yeah, that goes back to the passion you have for the field, and I bet you have more experience than you think. So if for some reason you've been triggered to go to this, whatever it is. So somewhere in your life, you have had experiences in and around that item. And so you want to capitalize on those conversations when you're in the interviews, when you're rewriting your CV, those things. And talk about the passion and do the research and maybe get some of the education in advance so they know you're serious, that this isn't a lark.
Right.
Hey, if Faith wants to call me, I'll be glad to walk her through it.
Yes, everyone, please connect with Lisa. It's under Lisa Heiser Harrington on LinkedIn. Lisa, do you have a few more minutes for some questions? We've got a few more questions that came in.
I do, and I'm happy to do that. And I want to say one thing about Heiser. That's my dad and mom, and I have that in my business, the H, to honor them. So
yeah,
I should have said that sooner.
Right there. Lisa Heiser Harrington.
So yeah, I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, let's go through. David Carey said, I just started a career search accountability group. Great idea, David.
Good idea, yes.
Some of our members are new and pretty shell-shocked. And I think I see that a lot, like executives that have been at their jobs and their roles for over 20, 25 years. Mm-hmm. He says, what would be a good place to help them get started on writing their CV?
Oh boy, yeah. There are probably, so I'm not, no offense to the resume writers out there, I'm not a fan of resume writers for the final version, but it's a great idea to reach out to somebody who does that and let them interview you and learn about you, and they will make a draft, and then you go in and you have to make it you. It has to speak in your voice. But having someone, and I would be willing to bet that right now some of those places are offering very low discounted rates to try to get people in, to just do the first draft, and then they can build from there. If it's just about writing the thing and understanding how to get it written. If there's an opportunity via a Zoom meeting, if you wanted me to come and talk to them and share some ideas, I could jump on a Zoom with your group.
Yes, please connect with Lisa.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We also have a question for a graduate student. I'm in a career-changing boat from a teacher to an aspiring business executive. I have invested time, money in getting admission to a business school in France. However, sometimes I have self-doubts on this career change. How can I keep motivating myself? It is hard sometimes. Can you recommend some advice?
Yeah,
that's everyone, right?
That's everyone. That's everyone.
You're not alone, Akansha. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're not alone at all. That we all have to keep motivating ourselves every single day. And I like the advice that Sam Horn gave us that day. Draw your vision of your future. In this case, it was our book cover. Put it up. Put it in front of you every day. Write the 6 words that are your value statement type words. Put it up where you can see it every day. Think about the vision you have for your life and for your business, and think about that as in terms of the impact you're going to have on the world around you, and write that down. What's your vision of the impact you're going to have on the world when you get this done? And that will keep you motivated, because you're always looking to the future and you're always thinking about what you are going to give back. And when you come from the heart that way, it makes all the difference.
Love it. Thank you. Anne Small asked, Lisa, what are your top 5 strengths? She is learning more and more about Gallup Strengths Finders. So I'll share mine, you share yours. Tell me yours.
Have them if you want them.
Tell me yours.
Mine are maximizer, achiever, arranger, command, and woo.
Oh.
And I have to admit that I have to write them down. I can never remember anything but woo. Woo!
Yeah. Woo is, I always think of woo as a woo person could sell ice cubes to an Eskimo.
That's what I used to say about my mother. I got my sales skills from my mother. She could sell it.
Yes, that's amazing for woos. Well,
but
for
command
me,
and woo are 2 opposite things, so that's fun to have both of those in my personality too. So
for sure, you have both sides of the brain. Right?
Yeah, on the disc profile of an I, with a lot of D behind it, and that's what I teach. 20 years I've been teaching disc.
Influencer.
That I can help you with that too. So
yeah, mine is, I think, connectedness, relator. I think includer,
sounds
responsibility, and positivity. Yeah. So I'm a big relationship kind of person. Yeah. Yes. And I'm actually a big S on disc.
You are. I know.
Yes. Let's see real quick. And then Anne mentioned Dale Young does an amazing job helping people reinvent themselves. Thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. That's why I always say, like, the comments itself is content, right?
Yes.
I love how people, just share advice, share resources, connect with each other. Please connect with each other on there, because this is how we network. We can network online as well as in person, for sure. Right. So Lisa, I mean, gosh, the time just flew by. Like,
oh my gosh, it's
always a wonderful time talking to you, and I really just love how you integrate strategy and heart and leadership all together.
Yep.
And I always tell people, like, you know, you feed my mind and you feed my heart.
Oh,
And
thank you. Thank you
I
so
really want
much.
to thank you for that.
I was thrilled to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Fanny.
Any last words, last final thoughts?
If you haven't gone with Fanny to talk about videos, do it. I can tell you she's the best there is.
Thank
I have to
you.
throw that in there. You are truly amazing. And just know that I pray for you guys every day, for all my network. I pray every day that we all get what we want out of life.
Yes, for sure. And yeah, so connect with Lisa. She's a wealth of information and leadership and strategies. And thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa. And everybody go connect with her, please. This has been a great show. And I just want to kind of wrap up real quick and let you know, every Thursday, this is my show, and I'll be going live with a variety of guests. And I'm honing in on a name for my show, but at the very core of it, I'm all about featuring content creators that lead from the heart and that are very purposeful in everything they do. And let's learn together and grow together.
Thank you, Fanny.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lisa.
Bye, all.